Hey folks, how's it going? Today we're going to do a quick overview of one of the top melee specs you're going to see in Shadowlands. I'm really excited to spend some time during the pre-patch here to get my slightly revised rotation down, although there's not a lot of material changes here. But ultimately, Frost Death Knight. I think Death Knights right across the board, Blood, Unholy, Frost are all going to be a ton of fun and is going to be worth checking out. We're going to go through a couple of really quick builds here in terms of Mythic Plus, and then we'll go actually into a couple raid talents here that you can potentially enjoy as you're out against the different environmental challenges that exist out there. So keep that in mind. First off, for Mythic Plus, we're going to go with a little bit more of this Ice Cap build. Ice Cap really complemented Frost Scythe well when it didn't have the AoE target cap on it. So the build actually went like this. You went Cold Heart. You'd actually go Murderous Efficiency with Tier 2. Tier 3 can be whatever you want. I prefer the Affixate Stun. Tier 4, Frost Scythe is typically the AoE talent we go to. We continue to go to it here, but the big change, folks, is that it's reduced to a 5 target limit. So keep that in perspective, watch for it. Tier 5, you can go with any build you want. For me personally, I always default to Permafrost to figure out just how things are going, and I'll take a little bit of an Absorb Shield if I can get it. Tier 6, Gathering Storm is the way to go, kind of complements Remorseless Winter really well. And then finally, Tier 7 is your Ice Cap build, and that's really your Frost Scythe, Frost Strike, and Obliterate critical strikes, reducing the cooldown of Pillar of Frost. It sounds really good, like it sounds really, really good, but then as you see it kind of expand a little bit more, due to this AoE cap, this build's going to start to get a little less popular here. Now, alternatively, this is where Frost is feeling some pain. The other build you can go with is Breath of Sindragosa, which has been a go-to for us for a really long time. In that build, you're going in Tier 1 with Cold Heart. Tier 2, Runic Intonation. Tier 3, whatever you want again, your top utility. For me, I'll stick with Affixate. Tier 4 is still Frost Scythe. Tier 5, again, is your utility or survivability, depending on the circumstance. Tier 6, no change. Stick with Gathering Storm. It's the top on this talent line. And then finally, Tier 7, you're going with Breath of Sindragosa. But you can see this is where it starts to get a little tricky, is that we've got some pretty significant changes to the way that Breath of Sindragosa and also Howling Blast provide damage. So the damage is actually tied to, it's called the square root formula. Essentially, the more targets you get, the more diminishing damage. That's the easiest way I can explain it to you without having to do some math on the screen. Keep an eye open though. Like again, Frost is going to be great. I think you're going to see it really, really attractive when it comes to some raid builds. Mythic Plus, just due to some of the nerfs that we got on the AoE world, I think there's a pretty substantial case to be made to stick with Unholy as we jump into the pre-patch here. Now, alternatively, in raiding, we've got 3 different builds that we can go with. You can stick with your dual wielders that we've been doing and go with an Ice Cap build. It's really strong where we're starting off here in pre-patch. It's going to be competitive with almost every other melee single target build out there. So keep this in mind. You get a lot of Ice Cap procs related to using your two-handed approach. And why am I touching on that? It's because in a second we're going to talk about what actually incorporating a two-hander into the Breath of Sindragosa raid build looks like. But before we do that, the Ice Cap build. So cool. Cold Heart Tier 1, Murderous Efficiency back with Tier 2. Affixate stays my Tier 3 line. You don't necessarily go with Frost Scythe, you actually go with Frozen Pulse. And that just gets you a little bit more damage from your auto attacks. And since you're not focusing on AoE damage, it's an easier build for you. Tier 5 again is whatever you are necessarily comfortable with. I'll stick with Permafrost. Tier 6 again is Gathering Storm. It's hard to not pick Gathering Storm the way this talent is set up right now. And finally, Tier 7 is Ice Cap. Really, really easy way to go. If you want to go with this Ice Cap build and you're kind of done, you've put up with Frost with rocking only dual wielders for the past couple expansions and you're ready for a change, this is actually all you have to do. Go equip your two-handed weapon, like so. Nice, nice. Frost Death Knight, rocking the two-hander again. But the only real material change is that you go back to your Tier 4 Frozen Pulse, and that actually just transitions over to Avalanche. It kind of complements, you'll see it. Again, this is a great way if you're looking to see how punchy and kind of hard-hitting Frost can be on single target. It'll really stand out with your two-handed obliterates. So keep that in mind. Now, kind of going hand in hand with that, we're going to go back to the Breath of Sindragosa build. Again, remember, this is strictly for raiding. Tier 1, you're going with Cold Heart. Tier 2, you're going over to Runic Attunation. Tier 3, go to Asphyxiate. Tier 4, you're sticking with Avalanche. So Avalanche for two-handers. That's what we have to remember. Avalanche for two-handers. Tier 5, whatever you're comfortable with. Tier 6, again, Gathering Storm, no surprise there. Tier 7, that's your Breath. So jump over to Breath of Sindragosa, and then you're in great shape. It's probably the most viable build for two-handed weapons. I know it's a lot of fun playing with Ice Cap, but Breath of Sindragosa is still probably knocking out the most damage there. And honestly, Obliteration with the two-hander isn't great without the rank 2 frost damage from Killing Machine, and we're not going to get that until a little bit later. And then finally, kind of jumping back, if you want to go with Breath of Sindragosa, but you want to continue to rock the two-handers, this is what all you have to do. Go Cold Heart, go Runic, go with Asphyxiate. Remember, Avalanche is for two-handers. When you're dual wielding, you go with Frozen Pulse. Tier 5, whatever you want. Again, for me, Permafrost, but Death Pack you could talk me into. Tier 6, Gathering Storm. Tier 6 doesn't change. I will be surprised if it changes this entire expansion. And then finally, Breath of Sindragosa right there. If you can rock that, you will be in absolutely fantastic shape going through the pre-patch, and honestly, I think Frost is going to be one of the top, really top competitive abilities out there. So something to keep into consideration. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm going to probably raid in one of my guilds with Frost as one of my mains, probably on the Alliance side here. So we'll just wait and see how it goes. Thanks for checking it out this far. Let me know, what's your thoughts? Is Frost going to be your go-to Death Knight? Or are you going to go with maybe a potentially different build? What's your thought behind that? Do you like two-handers? Do you like dual wielding? What's your flavor when it comes to Frost Death Knight? All right, folks, thanks for checking out the vid, and I will speak to you soon. See ya.